Hello, and today's question from an IT leader is, what are these OKRs all about? And I know you could talk a long time about OKRs.
I quite like OKRs.
They are good.
I think it's quite a valuable thing. But what are they all about? That's a good question, actually. I think, unfortunately, like many of these things, like Agile, there are an awful lot of misconceptions about what OKRs are, just as there are about what Agile is. In the right circumstances, they're both kind of amazing, transformative approaches to things. Used in the wrong way, or if you got the wrong end of the stick, a waste of energy and probably going to end up costing you more time. So OKRs, start with a simple thing, it stands for objectives and key results. So this is all about setting objectives and helping an organisation, a team, an individual to deliver towards some kind of a goal. So the first thing I think is worth talking about is to think about management by objectives, which is not OKRs, but is something that we're probably all very familiar with as a place to start. So if you think about your own experience, how would you describe objective setting normally? This is not a chance to be cynical and whatever, but what was the mechanism?
So it tends to be top down, so the board have probably already set theirs, and then they trickle down and you set yours. Tends to be quite long and wrapped up in a strategic plan of the organisation, so you'll have 12 months, 3 months, 3 years, 5 years typically. And they tend to be talking about something getting out the door, so delivering an appraisal system, delivering a project, delivering that, and that's it. And then it's, you know, a tick box at the end, green light, ding ding, you can move on to the next one.
So there's a couple of other things to add that I would, partly because I'm talking about OKRs, they're almost always linked to performance. Getting a green light, ding ding, as you said, at the end of your objective becomes almost as important, if not more important, than the objective itself, because that's how I get paid in the end, is number one. And the way that they're measured and operated is typically relatively static. So we've got our objectives for the next year and we lay them out just like we do with a budget, and we all know what happens with those by the end of the year. However, that's not to say that there's nothing good in objective setting. Setting targets and helping people to see a direction and therefore coordinating, so all the people are running in the same kind of direction, is a brilliant idea. And adding some measures, things like SMART objectives, for example, to make things specific is also admirable. That at least you know you've got there, even if there has changed, which is of some value. So let's just jump into OKRs, because as you said, I could talk about this for hours. A few key differences with OKRs, first and foremost. First thing is, by the name, we're separating the objective with the results. A SMART objective, the sort of thing you might have done with MBO, sandwiches those two things together in one place. And that leaves you kind of, well, physically constrained, I suppose, between those two things. With an objective and a key result, you typically will have some kind of an aspirational objective, something that if we deliver it will make a fundamental difference. The launch of a completely new product, the entry into a new marketplace, the implementation of SRE or DevOps type practices into our team, whatever they are. That objective itself, people understand, and it's interesting and exciting, inspirational even, but we don't worry about the measures there. The measures come in the key results. So the key results is where we're looking for our specificity. Ideally, we're not just saying something is done, like a binary measure. We really want something in there that's a percentage. So go back to our DevOps aim. We might have a percentage of our environment that passes through automated testing, for example. The objective and key results can also run at different times. So this objective could be, over the next year we want to get somewhere, or over the next 10 years, doesn't really matter. The key results, however, could be, okay, given that, I'm going to commit within the next 3 months to get to this measure, and that's my aim. So number one, starting hopefully to explain some of the flexibility in that process. A couple of other key things, just pick up on your point, and then we'll need to stop the video, but there's many more resources on this we can help you with for sure. The intention of an OKR is not to get to a green light at the end of the month, the quarter. It's to drive the organisation forward. So they're designed to be aspirational and kind of future looking, but also if you discover that you're going the wrong direction, they're easy to change. One of the things in most organisations that stops that key behaviour happening, however, is reward. Most OKR systems, or at least the successful ones, detach reward. So if you say to somebody, where do you want to go? They'll give you a big answer. If you say, where do you want to go? And by the way, your reward pay, your appraisal is based on the answers you give me, there's a temptation to sandbag. So by keeping that detached, we open up creativity. The second and final point, which links to what Juliet was talking about, was a good percentage, typically half, of any person or any team's objectives should come upwards rather than downwards. There's absolute value in having strategic direction and helping people move, but the leaders writing that strategy don't have visibility of the things that the teams need to improve and the individuals need to deliver. So having that combination of the two makes it incredibly, incredibly powerful. One tip I would say, if anything that we've talked about on this is interesting or exciting, there are some videos certainly that we can link that are worth looking at, or give us a call and have a chat about it first. Attempting to get to where Google are after 20 odd years of using these won't happen overnight. Obviously, there's a lot of failure to happen and you should start small. So it really is worth getting some advice, getting started with OKRs.
I think just picking up on one of the words that you used is that transformational piece. Is that if you can get people excited with that, and we've talked about moonshot goals before, get people excited in that overarching, aspirational, is it really realistic? Well, you don't know until you aspire to it. So have that, get people excited, get the freedom there. You might say in your teams, look, this is where I'd really like to go, and then suddenly you get that energy flowing, and then they're setting their own objectives and OKRs. So there's really, but that hearts and minds piece is quite critical in this. You
have to have the organisation must support it, otherwise it's just MBO by another name. Google, for example, have famously rewarded failures in the sense of people that were part of failed projects still got full or better bonuses because their pay is not about what they achieved. It's about how they went there, how they delivered, the kind of attitude and spirit. You're rewarding good attempts that didn't work. You're not rewarding outright negligence. Absolutely. But that's the misunderstanding a lot of people have. Get that right, and transformational and the rest. Brilliant. Well, we hope that helps and gives you some tips. As Stephen said, do get in touch if you just want to have a chat about it. We'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, we'll catch up with you again very soon. Thank you.